Virgo, hi, great to see you. Just in time for your Virgo June 2020 reading, and hi to the Virgo subscribers. Fabulous to see you as always. You know, this month we're going to use the Thoth Tarot deck. The Thoth Tarot deck has a lot of interesting esoteric imagery in it, so I might use this pen to point out some of the salient features of it which come up and which take my fancy from time to time. Now, do you know, a lot of people ask me questions about myself personally. I don't mind talking about that every now and again. One of the questions is about my children. All I will say is that yes, I am a father and I have more than one child. There is the Four of Swords. That's another question here. What's this question? Do I work? Well, do I have a day job, I suppose is what it means. The answer is no, I don't. This is all I do. I do readings for people. I do healings, and I discern spirits and move them on or give them comfort where they need it to do. Now look, these are gifts that are given to me. It's not because I'm anything special. It just so happens to be that that's how I popped out. And God has said to me, your job in life is to go out and help people. And so that is what I'll do. One of the other questions here is to say that why do I do these tarot readings? The reason why I do the tarot readings is there's death, is that there will be something in here each month that you will find that will give you solace and will let you know that you are loved. That you are loved by the divinity, that you are loved from several directions. Now, you must never forget that, and this is something which is, I'm told, like, why does a young sapling grow up? Because it is in its nature, and also the sapling is a being, but being itself, the divinity requires that it do so, and that is why I do. And as I say, it's not because I'm a fancy guy or anything like that. It's just some people can sing, I can't. Some people are good at art, I'm not. It's just how you happen to be born. The questions here is that on that subject, when did I become clairvoyant? Well, I was born that way. There's the Prince of Cups. I just knew things when I was a child, and thereafter I've been doing readings for people since I was a teenager. I've had the ability to heal people. When I say I've had the ability to heal people, I am a vessel through which healing can take place. That's it. It's like the can of Coca-Cola. The can is the can. Coca-Cola, that's the pause that refreshes. Yeah, I'm not the pause that refreshes, I'm the can. So that's the reality of that subject. When I was a young guy, the woman that I was in love with, and who was in love with me, a woman whose beauty would make you weep with desire, she died suddenly. For me, the sun went out and the birds stopped singing. And about 6 months later, when I was in prayer or meditation, I suppose you'd say, it was as if a very dark pair of sunglasses was lifted away from my eyes, and for the first time in my life, I could see. And I've been able to see ever since. And I keep looking to see what there is to find and what more things there are to find. I have been blessed in that respect. I have been blessed. So do I have a day job? No, I don't. This is all that I do. Do I have any hobbies? Well, I think we're running out of time here. There's the Nine of Cups. Yeah, look, my hobbies are, this is going to sound strange with a guy like me, but it's cosmology, physics, quantum mechanics, evolutionary biology, and philosophy. And I've done very high level studies to very high postgraduate levels in these areas. And if any philosopher or scientist, because I know all the stuff, if they ever say to you, oh, there is no such thing as life after death, there is no spiritual realm, there is no God, I can tell you they're talking rubbish, because there is, and I know it because I have seen it myself. And there is the star, the perfect end for you. Well, enough talking about myself. Now it's time to talk about you. So let's see what these cards have to say and what is in store for you this month. Okay, Virgo, let's have a look at this card in the center first, shall we? The Prince of Swords. Gee, I see a lot of Scorpio and a lot of Libra around here. I think you'll be thinking about Libra or Scorpio or having something to do with them. Well, here the Prince of Cups appears naked apart from his helmet, which has the crest of an eagle. He is seated on a shell-like chariot drawn, well, by the eagle of Scorpio, and I'll show you the stages of Scorpio when I get to this card here. He's riding over a lake of water and holds a cup in his left hand from which a serpent is emerging. And he has a lotus in this hand which he has pointing down towards the water. The lake is calm, but it looks as if heavy water is falling upon it, doesn't it? Scorpio, of course, has always been a very spiritual sign, and certainly it is throughout all of Christian tradition. Now, the Prince of Cups, well, as a prince, he represents air, and in a suit of cups, it's water, so he's the airy part of water. Now, following elemental dignity rules, water and air strengthen each other but are neutral, so there's no elemental contradictions in his makeup. However, in the Prince of Cups, I think they combine with the energies of Scorpio, which I'm seeing, to make him really quite an intense character. Now, this could be a female as much as a male in everyday life, of course. And as an agitated stream flows, so does the Prince of Cups, trying to get the most out of life as is possible. Yes, but I'm also getting Libra here because he has an ability to detach, as Libra is an air sign, and detach from the heavy, intense, obsessive, controlling emotions of Scorpio. The card really shows somebody with control and poise of the mind and of the emotions. Now, I think vigilance is necessary around this person. The downside, of course, is that going too much in the other direction and really being afraid to feel and open up and love is a problem if you are too caught up in the mind. And I'm looking at these clouds here going through, which are very airy as well. In fact, we might look at some of the symbology of the card so you can better understand what my thinking is on it for you. And first of all, the chariot over water, well, it's shaped like a seashell. It doesn't touch the water, the chariot, but it drives over it in the air, doesn't it? So I think that this is a person who's not engaging in his emotions to the extent that this has really held him back in life, I think. And it also implies a secretive nature, someone who won't allow us to see into his depth, and that is what lies underneath the water. He always wants to move forward with his life. Now, in his left hand here, he's holding these reins which control the eagle. Now, they are black, and the black, for me, refers to the decay which can be associated with Scorpio. And I'll talk more about that when I get to the death card, which you've got up here. Now, in the right hand, he's got that inverted lotus blossom, hasn't he? You see that there? Well, that really is implies, I think, that he holds his emotions and intuition as being less important than his intellect. Now, this cup with the coiling serpent, the serpent is also a symbol of Mercury. Now, Mercury, of course, is associated with the intellect. And he's looking at this snake, this intellect, and he's not looking at this flower here, which is pointing down here. So I think he really does favor the intellect over emotions. Now, despite this being a cups of water card, there is a lot of air associated with it, and this gives the card its volatility, since air and water can produce quite intense weather. when they're put together, can't they? So we have a lot of air combined, I think, with the depth of Scorpio, giving him a very intense nature. But nevertheless, I think that this does for you represent something of a time of rest and healing that is necessary, usually after a period of some trauma in your life. This period acts as a time when you can gather your strength once again and move on to a more productive phase later on. But if you don't use this time wisely, then you could end up in a repeat cycle as before. And in the Prince of Cups, this comes about when he is exhausted from oscillating between periods of passion and loss, as presented by this mixture of air and water of Libra and Scorpio. I think it's also necessary for you to make sure that your expectations of people are set at the right level. Otherwise, there could be a danger of your expectations being unfulfilled, or somebody else's expectations being unfulfilled. And this could be referring to this other person here. But you've got to be careful not to shut yourself away and stop trying to move your life forward if there has been an episode of disappointment. Because the Prince of Cups, he really represents one of those times in his full-on pursuit of life, on the edge. Well, he can sometimes experience periods of loss, but there really is the potential here for great balance and harmony, I think, with this card. There is an intensity here which resonates with that intensity of Scorpio, which is ruling here, I think. And it adds an emotional depth to a relationship, possibly a sexual relationship, giving it great intensity. And certainly this characterizes the relationships of the Prince of Cups. It's his goal and what makes him happiest. It doesn't just represent sexual fulfillment, though, but getting the most out of life by living it to the full and using the energy of the sun, which is in the second decan of Scorpio, to really push things forward. Now, I think what this is saying here is that you, or the person that this is referring to, may on the surface appear calm, but this masks a passion and intensity which can make him volatile. This is a person who has much to give, immense ability, but somebody who really can't be relied upon. Because really he's not an integrated whole. His main responsibility is to himself. Now, to people like this, ambition is the main thing. He can be secretive, hiding his deepest desires. And people can often be in the creative arts, which can extend even into hair and makeup and fashion, I think, here. I think he's a person who can readily identify with the ups and downs in life and use, when he wants to, his intuition to shed insight into other people's lives, as he has really fully immersed himself in life. Now, I was talking about this being a period of rest and recuperation for you, and here we have, I think, another representation of that. The Four of Swords here is entitled by the developer as truce. Well, truce is really a rest from conflict. So I think you have a mind in the Suit of Swords that is negotiating some sort of temporary resolution to things at the moment. Now, in the Four of Swords, the four swords here are symmetrically arranged over a cross of St. Andrew. It's called a St. Andrew's cross because what happened was that he didn't want to be crucified when he died. I think he was around about 200 or 300 AD. This guy didn't want to be crucified in the same way as Jesus Christ. So he had one arm there, a leg there, and a leg there, which is where we get this idea of the St. Andrew's cross here. And the swords are sheathed in 49 petals, right? So I think that this is a a thing where we're talking about the great, the great ability for you now to get some rest and rejuvenation here. There's a couple of angels that are associated with this one. Lorvia, which acts against torments and sadness, and it can bring about a state of joy. And Kaliel, which brings about divine justice and discerns what is right and brings about integrity and lawful things. Now, the astrology of the card for me is Jupiter ruling the third decan of Libra. Jupiter in Libra. Well, Libra tries to find balance in our lives, doesn't it? Yeah. Well, let's move that out a bit for you now. Now, this need for balance can cause much unrest to achieve its goals sometimes. On the other hand, Libra can also induce indecisiveness rather than action. So, ironically, Libra can sometimes be an obstacle. But Jupiter gives a rest from a difficult situation, as well as providing you with an open, higher mind, a flexibility which is needed to resolve conflicts in life. So from Jupiter, you are able to use your higher mind to see things from a different point of view and move on. Now let's have a look at these images again more closely and just see if anything comes out for me which is of importance. First of all, let's look at these yellow spiky lines that are drawn here. Yellow representing air, chaotic thoughts. They represent conflicts that you have had or which may be taking place in your life, and now you have some respite from them. The four swords aspects of you are protected from chaos at the moment. Now the St. Andrew's cross I've spoken of here, this 49-petaled rose, incidentally, this is actually the mystical number of the planet Venus, of the goddess Venus, and it's arrived at 7 times 7 because 7 is the number associated with Venus, and 7 times 7 gives us 49, which is Venus, and Venus is about beauty and love. And of course Venus also rules Libra, which I see here. Now the four swords, their hilts bear the signs of the various elements, water, earth, air, and the other one. We see here the chaotic lines representing air, the wavy lines representing water, the flames are fire, and the discs are earth. Now the blue background behind all of this chaos that's here, blue has an association for me with the planet of Jupiter. So we have Jupiter adding expansion of your consciousness when this phase of truce has passed. It doesn't mean that life will be easy straight away, but you have the potential for change, for better in the future. Now I think what this is saying to you is that this is also saying to you, in addition to that Prince of Cups who had a couple of things to say with respect to the subject, is that there's need to take time out from a stressful situation. I don't know if you're able to take a holiday at the moment, but do something which enables you to recharge your batteries. Now, conflicts won't go away, but time out is needed from them, rest and recovery from a stressful situation. You may need time out to reorganize your life so that it is not so stressful. Something is not resolved, but lurking underneath, waiting to be confronted again when the time comes to rise again from your bed of mental rest and tackle those decisions, fears, or challenges. Make the most of this mental rest in order to be at your strongest when you need to face the issues at hand, but don't overindulge in taking time out, because situations, problems, unavoidable circumstances of living life can grow into bigger, more challenging problems while your head is still under the covers. But trust your intuition to know when is the right time and when enough rest has been taken. Well, there is, however, very, very good news here.
And this is something which is important for you to know about. This is the Nine of Cups. Here we have 9 cups overflowing with water from the 9 lotuses. Well, I don't need to say much about this. Really, what this is it is Jupiter again ruling the second decan of Pisces. Now, in classical astrology, Jupiter rules Pisces, and so we have a very strong complementary energy with this card. Jupiter's philosophical approach aligns well with the spirituality of Pisces. Jupiter also brings its good luck and happiness with it. Hence the title of the card, which is Happiness. And Jupiter's softer concerns, such as care, compassion, and the spiritual life, are beautifully expressed through sensitive Pisces. There is an enormous capacity to love, although, as so often with this sign, this is often hard won through lots of difficult times in the past. But I'm looking at some of this symbology here, and I notice that the images here are arranged in the form of a square, which is about foundation and stability, and the cups are resting on the calm waters of Pisces. Well, really, this is sometimes referred to as the wish card. So what is it that you wish for? Because this is about things coming true that you have always wanted. This card represents fulfillment, and so things can't get better with respect to a situation or a desire that you have at the present moment. It is going to come true. Let's have a look at this. Well, this of course is death, and it's a skeleton here, black. Now it's underwater by the looks of it. Yes, it's a skeleton underwater. So I would say the attribution here is probably to the ancient Egyptian god Osiris, who actually died in the sea and was lost under the sea. This is really a depiction of transformation and resurrection associated with death, and so is really a story of the complete cycle. Death and its resolution is central to the spiritual path, as you would probably know. Now, let's have a closer look at it and see what is here. Now, well, first of all, the developer has assigned the sign of Scorpio to it, and I agree with that. And this thing here, this is a biblical, an ancient Hebrew letter. It means fish. What's it called? It's Nun. It's Nun, which means fish. Now, fish, of course, swim in the sea, and fish has become a direct symbol of the fertility of Osiris and a dying god. Yeah. The fish, of course, was associated with the Christ figure, wasn't it? Very much so, very much so. Now, there's a lot of other imagery in here that is interesting to have a look at. The first thing is that I'm going to look at the question of this scorpion down here. Now, there's the scorpion. There are 3 stages of Scorpio, so that's why I say this is a good, why I'm getting Scorpio here. The scorpion, the snake, and then the eagle are the 3 stages. Well, the scorpion represents the lowest form of death and is situated between the Alpha and Omega, the first and the last. Legend says that when a scorpion is in a situation that it cannot win, it stings itself to death. And I think this card is representing the gross illusory side of death. By denying your infinite spiritual nature, you also die to life and filling it out fully with purpose. Now, this lily on the left-hand side here and the lotus on the right, as I see it here, they're both associated with the planet of Saturn. So being shaped like the Alpha and Omega, the first and last letters of the Greek alphabet, respectively, they're showing that the scorpion represents physical life being trapped in the limits of time. Let's have a look at this thing here. There's a snake and a fish. I get a lot of Pisces with that fish as well, but there's, for me, a more mystical reason for that fish being there. So we've got this snake, a serpent, and a fish. Life is a flux between conscious living and unconscious living, death. Life and death are two curves of the same serpent. This pair, the snake and the fish, also represent the masculine serpent and the feminine fish in union, depicting the act of creation. And this thing here looks like a phallus, doesn't it, coming up here from this goddess Sirius? Because the tarot is all about sex, among other things. And being placed behind the phallus, here like this, so there's the front, there's the fish and the snake behind it. They're talking about procreation and life and death. Now the eagle up here, the eagle is the most exalted form and represents it's the most exalted form of Scorpio. Scorpio has three forms, as you remember, the scorpion, the snake, and the eagle. And Scorpio represents death of the ego and subsequent oneness with God. The eagle represents the ecstasy of the spiritual orgasm that initiates the creation of life. And so it's very much a case of this is about life. The three figures of Scorpio are also associated with the three states of water, I think. And see, Scorpion, ice due to its hard shell, serpent, water due to its flowing nature, and eagle, gas or air, which rises in the air. There are some souls that are, actually I'll bring it down again so you can have a look at it, because this is interesting. Now there, in these bubbles here, there are soul incarnations. The bubbles show figures of various ages, an adult male, an adult female, a child, and a single sperm. And the bubbles are held together with the threads forming the phallus of Osiris. So here we have the two sides of Osiris, really. We have the scythe, this thing here, with which he destroys life, and his phallus, with which he creates life. We could also see this in the context of an individual soul incarnating in different lives, bubbles, through the creative will of God. Now Osiris is a black skeleton. He's black, which is the color of Saturn, and it's about form and structure. And structures, of course, have decay, because decay is inherent in nature, such as the form of the human body. And Saturn also bestows the concept of time. Well, higher levels of creation have no time. There is no time on the other side. He dances, as this represents what this death card is about, change and transformation. He prevents stagnation in your life, and it's obvious from the symbolism of the card that his scythe gives rise to new life in the bubbles. Well, I could go on ad infinitum for this, but I'd say that something in your life is dying, dissolving, or disintegrating, whether it be a structure that you have created, or a pattern, or a way of thinking about yourself or of the world. Now, this is necessary for new beginnings and transformation in your life. Now, this is a period of great transformation and facing your darkest fears. But remember, the darkest hour is just before the dawn. In order to grow, you must abandon the old, and death is your protection against stagnation. As you change, you are forced to leave behind that which you have outgrown. If your life is passive and your life's tasks are not being completed, and death may not be evident, well, on the surface things may seem stable, and yet we are here to learn and grow, and therefore when our life is active, we are continually changing as we follow our deepest purpose. Death is then our servant as we evolve, completing our life's lessons in this incarnation. Growth involves facing our fears and breaking your limits of existence. This is a time for you to cut away that which no longer serves your purpose in life. Finally and quickly, we'll deal with this card here, which is, look, this is just so on theme, it's not funny, but it's the star card here. Now this little biblical sign, this ancient Hebrew letter that's here, this is He, the word He, which means window, and a window's main function is to transmit light, so we can see the essence of the star is to let you know you are transmitters of light on all levels to both your life and the world around you. This is ruled by Aquarius, which in turn is ruled by Saturn. And Aquarius is all about the individual and uniqueness, and yet it has an overall humanitarian outlook, and shares these qualities in that it is trying to remind you about the divinity and uniqueness within you, and yet encouraging you to be a conduit for bringing down your highest potential. Now, just a couple of the things we'll look at here. You see this golden cup that's at the top here? Gold in the sun is associated with God the Father. She's pouring the limitless potential of God upon herself, and she becomes a conduit for divine energy. The star of Venus is there, which is about love. The silver cup is the moon and illusion. As energy becomes manifest in the world, its purity is lost, as it is further from its source, being the divine. Nevertheless, this is the blood of the Holy Grail, and it is poured on the junction between land and water. Now, this card is really, I think, saying to you the things here. There's other symbols in there, but they're the main concepts that we can have for you today. I think really what we're saying here is that this is a time where you are going to be fulfilled, and let's pull it out a bit. There we go. You will be fulfilled and inspired by life, and it's a reminder for you to follow your dreams and that which gives you the most inspiration. Being directed to express your spiritual side, joy and inspiration. Be open to love and trust the universe and what it brings. Encouragement is now being given. That although you have had testing times in the past, and you have, haven't you? Now is the time to move forward with renewed hope and live an inspired life that you can express yourself fully through. Well, that's the way it is for you this month.
Well, you were fantastic in that reading, as you always are. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did providing it to you. Do you know, I love doing these readings for you, and I'm glad that you get so much out of it. Now, make sure to check out the description if you'd like to have a personal reading, and just let me say this. You are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you again next month. But until then, it's bye for now.